This is Frank Nieto with Vision Quest Auto, and today we're going to be taking a look at the brand new Toyota Highlander. Now, a few months ago, I reviewed the Grand Highlander, and at the time I said that that was one of my favorite family SUVs, one of my favorite SUVs in general. It's incredibly luxurious, a lot of passenger space, a lot of cargo space, especially in that third row. That was surprising because Grand Highlander is not that much bigger than the Highlander itself. We'll talk about that a little bit, but the specs between these vehicles aren't massive. So we'll delve in a little bit about the Grand Highlander, but also going to really focus on the Highlander itself and whether this is the right vehicle for you. The Highlander has long been one of my go-to references, for people when they're asking about what vehicle they should get. When they're getting a family, they want a three-row SUV. I almost always will mention the Highlander, and I think I've had about 10 people that I know personally that I've recommended the Highlander to, and they've went out and bought them, and all of them have been very happy. I think that that'll continue with this current model. There's nothing really bad. In fact, Toyota really ups the game with this year's Highlander compared with this generation of Highlander compared to the others. So let's get to it. So here's the front of the Highlanders. Similar design cues as a lot of other Toyota SUVs and minivans nowadays, including the Grand Highlander and the Sequoia. Of course, this doesn't look exactly like those SUVs, but has a similar look with that grille. This is something that Toyota's just been changing up lately. Also has the cat eye headlights, which is becoming more and more prevalent, and of course, this car is no different. Has these, this is something else that Toyota's just been stepping up their game a little bit, making their stuff a little bit more um, upscale. This is one of the higher trims, but still, with this upscale look, you get these blacked out rims on this trim, so that's pretty cool. When you step inside, you'll see even more of that upscale look. You've got this two-tone leather interior, really nice with this red. It stands out. This is not completely all upscale. This is not like luxury, but it does have a distinctive look. I mean, as you can tell, this is rubberized. Feels nice, but this is rubber, some kind of a rubberish material. This is plastic. Plastic. None of it feels terrible, but this is leather. This feels really nice. Um, again, you see some plastics here, but the leather really, really nice. This two-tone black and red, really, really nice feel to it. Leather wrapped steering wheel. Of course, you got the rubber here on the horn. Got this carbon fiber like material. And little cubby above the glove box, which is appreciated. Even that carbon fiber runs over to the wireless charging pad, and we'll talk about that in a bit. Um, Leather boot for your shifter, old school shifter, which I appreciate and like. This is also really nice. You got this stitching here again, but this is nice. This is how the center console doesn't lift, but the cargo space there in the center doesn't lift, but it does slide back, and this looks really nice. There's no brakes in it. It slides back. It feels really comfortable. Really like this category we're having, and this is the stop start button being over here. It took me a little bit to find. I was like, well, I guess Toyota is no longer including stop start on all their cars. But I found it over here by my knee. Weird place to put it. I think most people would have it down around here, where you got your parking button and everything else, your drive modes, or even up here on the center console, climate controls and stuff. Like you'd find it there. You might even find it on the steering wheel, or around the steering wheel. It's a little bit of an odd placement. Not the worst, but not the best. Might take you a little bit. So if you are buying the Highlander and you're wondering where it's at, there it is, man. This is a little cargo thing. More cars having that. That's cool. But here's another thing I don't like. This is actually my big pet peeve. I appreciate the wireless charger. I appreciate wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. But this thing is so slick. There is no grip on this charging pad, and my phone just slides around constantly, to the point where the charger is pretty useless. To be honest, it's just if I'm at a stoplight, hey, yeah, it'll get some charging done then. But once I start driving, this charger, my phone's going to slide all over the place, and I'm going to have no charging whatsoever. So not really Great. And that's where these come in. I do appreciate those. And two USB-C and even a USB-A charger. The screen itself is real nice. You can tell I got title up here. Yeah, nice big screen, so that's good. All your controls are here. This is a nice car. It's coming in to the back now. You'll see that this continues to carry through again. Two-tone red leather. You've got these sunshades, which your passengers will appreciate. It's nice. It's becoming more and more prevalent in non-luxury vehicles. Um, there's a lot of red. I mean, as you can tell, like red right on the back of the seats is a pretty bold choice. Suge Knight would definitely like this cabin. A lot of death row red. Two USB-C charging ports down on the floor. You know, you got your climate controls. It's a digital readout when the car's on. You've got your cup holders there. You've also got a little bit of cup holders here on the side. That's nice. A little bit of space for personal items there. Um, I don't like this as much. You have to slide the seat back. You lift that. That's easy enough. And then you're going to let me get the seatbelt out of the way. You'll be able to step in. That's fairly easy. As expected, that third row does not isn't the most comfortable. They're low to the ground. They are leather trimmed, which is nice, but it doesn't have that red leather. These seats, a bit what I would say, um, they're good and bad. It's good to have that third row. It's not the worst. You can certainly, as you see, can slide this back, and you can provide them with a lot of, you know, foot room. But of course, your second row passenger then doesn't get much. So you can slide this back a little bit more. You can kind of give that second row passenger a lot of foot space, and the third row, they're not getting much. That's tight. That's about it. So there's definite give and take between those second and third row passengers. So here's just something that is, again, if you're thinking about a third row SUV, a lot of people would be thinking about using that third row for kids, especially smaller kids, be able to fit the grandparents here in the second row. Here's one of the nitpicks I have. You can't fit a car. So I shouldn't say you can't. You can fit a car seat back here. As you can tell, I have a booster seat. I would not put a rear-facing car seat in the third row. I would not recommend that at all. Like honestly, if you're doing that, that's a really bad idea. So don't do that. But booster seat seems perfectly fine for a third row. Here's the issue, especially if you want to have the grandparents riding in the second row. Here's the problem. If you can see, this booster seat really look at that. Do you see that? It looks like, oh, there's access to. No, see, look at how far over this has to be. The problem is this isn't really going to hold to put in the seatbelt. It's really a lot. Um, it's not going to fit in with this car seat. It looks like if you slide it all the way over, you might have access. It's not going to fit in that little gap back there. So what happens is you can fit that car seat in. That seatbelt buckle in. You can put the seatbelt buckle in one of these. It will accept it in this. But when you do that, safety alert system does not recognize that. It recognizes the weight on this seat, not the middle seat. So it knows that the middle seat is buckled and it's going off that this seat belt is not buckled. And for anybody who's ever driven without a seatbelt for more than, I don't know, 10 seconds in a Toyota, a recent Toyota can tell you, Toyota safety system is really top notch. It's great, except when you're in this particular situation, this thing will rail at you. And I'm going to do something that I don't recommend. And I'm going to drive. I am in a parking lot. I'm going to drive without a seatbelt just to give you a sense of what this sounds like. Okay. So we're going to do that in a second here. I want to make this very, very clear. I'm doing this very safely. I'm in a parking lot. There are no other cars around. Okay. I'm going to drive without my seatbelt on. And this is just to give you a sense of what happens when that third row seatbelt is buckled in the wrong seatbelt because the booster seat cannot access its own seatbelt buckle. So what's going to happen is this is the sound you're going to get. So I want to put this in drive. This is going to be a terrible sound. I'm just warning you. Give it a second. It's flashing. No seatbelt. Okay. Dings once, right? Not too bad. It's going to start dinging more. There we go. It's dinging more. It's dinging more. It's dinging even more. This is going to keep going. The only way to stop it is to put the seatbelt on or come to a stop. Even when I'm stopped, listen, I could be stopped at a stop sign. Park. That's the only way to stop it. So I'm going to warn you, if you have that, if you're thinking about putting a booster seat in that third row driving, there's a possibility that your booster seat may fit better than mine. My booster seat, maybe it's a little bit wider. I do believe that most booster seats are all pretty standard sizes, but planning on using that third row for a booster seat, bring the booster seat along on the test drive, put it back there, see if it fits. If it doesn't fit, or you have to use that, another seatbelt buckle, this could be an issue because trust me, you don't want to do that. And yes, I know there is a way to go into the Toyota system. I'm not going to mention how. There is a way to go in and turn this off. Apparently, I don't recommend that because the problem is, your little one's back there, and what if the seatbelt does come loose, and now you don't know? So it's an issue. So that's just a warning. Okay, so here's the cargo space with that third row down, and that's quite a bit of space. It's nice. You can also drop those second row seats down to get even more. Of course, these are the captain's chairs, so you're not going to have a completely flat floor. So I'm going to lift these third row seats up. That's how you do it. You just pull that strap. It's got a little bit of Velcro to keep it in place. Pull that up. Get your headrest. Going to do the same thing on this side. Pull it. It goes right into place. There you go. As you can see, decent cargo space. That's the best way I would say that is decent. I know that we were taking my son to his baseball game the other day, and to get some of the chairs we wanted to bring along, we actually had to drop that third row seat down. He sat back there in the third row. We had a couple of people with us, so we were able to get the chairs over there. But it takes a little bit of maneuvering to really use a lot of this space. So if we needed all the seats, that would have been problematic because we would not have been able to put the chairs in here. So you have to make some considerations. Do you leave somebody behind? Do they have to ride separately? How do you do this? You have to leave some cargo behind is really the big point there. So when it comes to being able to haul people, it does a great job. When it comes to road manners, that's something it does another good job with. Frankly, you don't really feel bumps in the road. It has decent pickup. It has, good gas mileage for what it is. I mean, right now, looking down again, roughly 18.3 miles per gallon. Not outstanding. I think some people who drive a little bit slower could probably get a stronger return. But, this is a very comfortable ride, and I think that even new drivers wouldn't have trouble driving this big a vehicle because in a lot of ways it's going to sound contradictory, but in a lot of ways this drives smaller than it is. But in other ways, it drives the same size as you would expect. And that's just when you try to take corners a little bit faster. When you're going at this speed, which is pretty slow, you're not going to have any issues with this. One of the things that I'm going to talk about with this video is straight up just the differences between the Highlander and the Grand Highlander. And right away, one of the things you'll notice when you compare these two cars is they don't seem that the Grand Highlander doesn't seem that much bigger out from the outside, but from the inside, it's a good bit bigger. There's a lot more third row legroom. There's a lot more, there's even more, passenger space just overall. There's more headroom, there's more legroom, there's more cargo space. The engine's going to be a little bit different, a little bit stronger. So there's also going to be some different technology aspects that are a little bit different. There's going to be different things that you can get in the Grand Highlander compared to the Highlander. And that's to be expected because the Grand Highlander has two purposes. It's a longer wheelbase version of the Highlander, but it's also a more upscale version of the Highlander. And because of that, there's going to be quite a few differences between those. For my money, if you're just asking me, I'm going to tell you that if you can stretch your budget, if it's within your budget, go with the Grand Highlander. I think that for most use cases, that'll be better. But if you're looking for a little bit more of a bargain, if it doesn't quite fit in your budget, then the Highlander's a great option as well. There's no shame whatsoever in getting the Highlander over the Grand Highlander, but you do get more with the Grand Highlander, and that additional passenger space is key. Now, this can fit a lot of people's use cases, but a lot of times before the Grand Highlander, and the Kia Telluride, you were looking at moving up to other vehicles. I think that most people, honestly, you're going to be happy with this car, but before you make that full on commitment to the Highlander, you want to consider some other things. So I want to thank you for watching. I hope that you've enjoyed this video and found it useful, our review. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to get your feedback with anything that you have to say about this car, any questions you might have. Please, if you enjoyed this, please like, share, and subscribe again on all of our social media platforms. And we'll see you around. For Auto, I'm Frank Nieto, and we'll see you next time.